Did you know that lateness is considered rude in many cultures?
Well, are you aware of the fact that the reason I was late tonight is because trans radicals like yourself made threats of violence against the attendees of tonight's event? So that's also very rude in Western civilization. And if you want to behave like an animal, I suggest you leave and go to the zoo where you belong.
What was the threat? What was the threat? What threat? What was the threat?
Clearly, there were threats of violence that were made
What
because
threats of violence?
if I was lying, the university officials would not have changed the event location tonight. Multiple threats.
The first time was was before we announced anything, I believe.
So
what threats of violence? No, what was the
threats
threat?
of violence, threats to attack, and threats to attack attendees and the speaker. So, that's why the police are here.
No, the police are here because we showed up.
But yeah, exactly. The police are here because you showed up, because you behave like animals.
No, the police weren't here until about half an hour after the doors were supposed to open, when you still weren't here, by the way. I got here before you, which is really unprofessional, homie. I'm sorry.
Well, it's also very unprofessional.
Yeah,
It's also unprofessional to shout people down when they're speaking when you pay for an event.
Absolutely, it is. As you said, I'm just a 22-year-old.
Great.
You're the one who's supposed to be the adult here. So why are you so unprofessional and late? How are you getting beat by a 22-year-old?
I'm not unprofessional. I'd say that unprofessional is screaming like an animal while flying the trans flag, trying to silence people from having their voices heard.
This is a gay flag, actually. The trans flag is completely different colors. It doesn't. The only common one is blue. Yeah. Okay. Well, I've got more questions.
I think if you take your mask off and you get some fresh air, you might think a little bit more rationally. I think it's cutting off the flow of oxygen to your brain.
Yeah. Godspeed, comrade.
Yeah.
Is your only form of Riz having big tits and Ashkenazi intellect?
Is my only form of what?
Of charisma.
No, I'd say that, I have a lot of redeeming qualities. I'm really good at handcuffing myself to buildings.
This is a quote from you. Why is there a video of you trying to seduce minors with your big tits and Ashkenazi intellect?
There's no minors. Again, that's, lies being pushed by the radical trans lobby. And isn't it the trans radicals that are advocating for the sexualization of children and the grooming of children in our schools? Why is your movement in favor of chopping off the penises of young children? Why are you trying to mutilate the breasts of teenage girls? How about you address the pedophilia and the sexualization of children in your own movement?
What about the pedophilia in Republican lawmakers?
There's pedophilia on both sides of the political aisle.
What about the Catholic Church pedophilia?
It's not what we're here to talk about tonight, but the trans movement.
You brought up pedophilia. You brought up pedophilia.
You just accused me of being a pedophile. You just accused me of being a pedophile, and you're going to say I brought up pedophilia?
Because you were.
I don't know. This is just very low IQ Q&A.
Okay. Just quick question. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So you are very against ISIS, right? Just like most people, right? Have you ever tried having a civil conversation with them? Because you have a lot in common with them. You're anti-gay. They're anti-gay. You're anti-abortion. They're anti-abortion. I'm sure you can find some common ground.
Do you have a question?
That was the question. Have you tried having a civil conversation with ISIS?
I don't know. You're just why would I go talk to an ISIS terrorist when I'm a Jewish conservative woman and their ideology instructs them to kill me?
I mean, if they kill you, you'll be a martyr for your cause. Die for your beliefs.
Perhaps you should take your own advice.
Damn. Okay.
Next question.
Hi. So, Laura, I just wanted to ask a quick question. So do you still identify as a quote-unquote proud Islamophobe as you did several years ago?
Well, I think when we talk about the word Islamophobia,
this is a yes or no question.
The definition of a phobia, is an irrational fear. So whether it's Islamophobia or transphobia, is it really an irrational fear to, worry about being around a group of people that makes open threats and proclamations to kill you. That's exactly what trans radicals are doing, and that's exactly what the Quran instructs devout Muslims to do. They instruct Muslims to murder, okay, and subjugate non-Muslims, including Jews like myself.
I do happen to know quite a few Muslims who are quite nice people.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that all Muslims are radical, but if you look at the Quran, okay, and you read the Quran, you will see that it instructs Muslims to subjugate and kill non-Muslims.
Okay, we're talking
and so
about
it's not really irrational when you're telling, when a Jewish woman is telling you that they're fearful of, an ideology. Let's make one thing clear. Islam's not a religion, okay? It's a political ideology that wishes to impose itself in a supremacist manner on others.
Okay, so all right then. So
I answered your question.
He's granted me one more question. So you have lumped Muslims together all in one group then. I
never said it's all Muslims. I never said it's all Muslims.
Okay, that's irrelevant to my next question. Let's move on.
When practice in its inherent form.
So am I allowed to then rightfully hate you for the subjugation of Palestinian people in Israel? Because we have made this correlation then. If we can make the correlation.
One, there's no such thing as Palestine. Two, there's no such thing as Israeli apartheid. And three, it's a free country. If you want to hate me, join the club. I've got a lot of haters.
Next question.
Thank you.
Nice too, by the way, bro.
Thank you.
Laura,
You
I'm a
too.
big fan, man. I just want to first say, officers, I don't know where the other cowardly officer went, but this is public distortance. These guys should be kicked out the university. Whatever the word, excuse me, English is my third language. But all I want to say is, I just wanted to ask, oh, shut the fuck up, Jesus. But, I'm conservative. I've been banned. I've been silenced the same way that you've been silenced as well. I just want to ask, what are your thoughts on how the globalist policies enacted by the West, by these communists, are going to, like the globalists, they want to, put aside, they want to mix, it's just, I don't know how to explain it. But point is, how does your ideologies line up with globalism? Do you support it?
Whose ideologies line up with globalism?
Yours.
Well, I'm not a globalist, so.
So you're.
I'm an America first. I'm an America first conservative. I'm a constitutional conservative. I campaigned on an immigration moratorium. I believe that we need to halt immigration in this country because we are being overrun not just by radical ideologies, which include communism and globalism, but when you have open borders and unfettered access to our country, and you're allowing for droves, right, millions of people from societies and countries whose values and views are completely incompatible with Western civilization and the United States Constitution, we need to crack down on that. And so
Most definitely, yeah.
I support, restrictive immigration policies so that we can keep America, America.
Because my parents came from a communist country with nothing, and now, we're a very wealthy family. And I really agree with what you said on the affirmative action. I had the grades for Harvard. I had the grades for Yale because I'm a white, rich man. They didn't accept me.
Right.
And they won't accept me to dental school or law school anyway. I appreciate what you're doing. God bless you.
Thank
God
you.
bless you.
You can stay after that photo.
Okay, so I kind of have two questions. So the word fascism has been thrown around a lot by both sides. I kind of want to know your definition of what you feel is fascism. And then I kind of want it, so your main kind of thing was you're supporting free speech, right? So I'm kind of wondering what concrete sort of solutions are you advocating for? Like, should the government do something to promote free speech? Like, what do you see as like solutions for that?
Well, I want to ask you, what is your definition, or what is your viewpoint of fascist? Because I saw that word being thrown around only from this side of the room tonight.
Well, you said that they're also fascist for like shouting you down.
Right. So what is your definition, or what makes me a fascist?
I didn't call you a fascist.
Right, but what is your definition of a fascist? What would make me a fascist?
I mean, fascism is a far-right ideology that supports corporatism for one thing. It's like a mixture of state power and corporate power in like a far-right sort of way. It's kind of like the opposite of communism, where like communism would be collectivization, fascism would be hyper-privatization.
It's not far right. And,
Well, then
these
what
are
is it? So
ideological inconsistencies that are shouted by radicals including many of the individuals here tonight who call people Nazis and fascists, which are actually radical leftist ideologies. They are. And
Well,
so
I mean, it's not true.
I
mean, the
have been
Nazis
open,
are not at
but
all.
let's just let's look at people's behavior tonight, okay?
Well, so is fascism.
Not once have I advocated for anybody here tonight to be silenced, okay? My speech
So
was
fascism
delayed
is
over my speech was delayed an hour tonight, and my time frame that I was allotted to speak tonight, that people paid for in the form of tickets, was interrupted because people were shouting me down. And so, this is a crisis.
So do you think it's more of like an insult than anything else, really?
It's not an insult. It's a violation of people's civil rights. And
No,
so
I'm talking
you
about
asked
the
my
word
solution.
fascism being more of an insult than it is like a political ideology at this point.
Yeah, it's an insult, but it's a misguided insult because they clearly don't understand the history behind the term. And
So
so,
then
to
second question.
answer the last part of your question so that we can get to everybody. The solutions for the war on free speech and all of this technological censorship, there's various forms. We need litigation. That's why I have a $10 billion RICO lawsuit right now against Facebook, Twitter, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jack Dorsey for this criminal conspiracy. And
So
we
you
do
think
know
the
that it's a
courts
criminal
are kind of the way to
conspiracy.
do it?
The courts, but also too, we see that Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act is really outdated. It was created prior to the invention of all of these different social media sites, and so I'm in favor, and I also campaigned on repealing Section 230. But as I mentioned in my speech, these civil rights violations are getting a broad brush, right, across the board, targeting people because of their viewpoints. You don't even have to say anything that's considered hate speech, even though there's no such thing as hate speech in this country. You just have to exist as a conservative or a political dissident, because there are some leftists who are also being silenced in this country. And so the solution to that is to update our civil rights laws to include political affiliation as a protected class. Because until these companies and multinational corporations and even lawmakers themselves understand that it is a violation of civil rights laws to silence somebody because of their political views, nothing's going to change in this country.
So make political affiliation a protected class?
I do believe we need to do that, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I got you. All right. Are you still running for Congress?
Well, I ran in 2020 and 2022, and I intend to run again, but I haven't filed the paperwork for, this next election season.
You tweeted that someone needs to create a non-Islamic form of Uber and Lyft, and I'm just asking.
Yeah.
I'm not like really far left or far right. I'm kind of like in the middle. So I'm asking, like, how can somebody represent everybody with rhetoric like that?
Well, my tweet, as I wrote about in my book, okay, the reason I tweeted somebody needed to create a non-Islamic form of Uber and Lyft is because I was actually thrown out of an Uber for being Jewish by a Muslim driver on Rosh Hashanah who, when he realized I was Jewish, okay, he said, "Get the F out of my Uber, you stupid effing Jew." And so when this was reported, when I was living in New York at the time, this was actually reported to Bill de Blasio's civil rights unit. And then about a month later, there was an ISIS terrorist, you can look it up, real story, who was driving for Uber, who used a truck to mow down about 12 people in a bike lane in Manhattan and killed about 8 of them. And so, at the time, the CEO of Uber was a Muslim, and there had been multiple instances of Muslim drivers who were ISIS terrorists, either committing acts of terrorism with their vehicles. It's not made up. This has happened multiple times, and also raping women. And so if these companies are not going to do proper background checks to ensure that people like yourself and others are safe while driving in somebody else's vehicle, then they need to address that.
The solution is banning all Islamic drivers?
I'm not saying ban all Islamic drivers, but I used this guerrilla tactic and provocation in my speech, which still should be protective, no matter how.
I think it should.
No
be
matter
protected.
how offensive my speech may be,
Yeah.
I used provocation through my tweet to raise awareness about what I view to be a safety risk. I'm not denying tweeting what I tweeted.
All right.
And I answered your question. Yeah.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
Yeah, what's your question?
Okay. Okay, so
I can't hear you.
okay, so I'm new here. I don't really know you personally.
I can't. I'm sorry. You're gonna have to speak a little bit louder because they're yelling outside.
Okay, sorry. I'm new here. I don't really know you personally, and I'm just like curious. I'm here with them, but I just want to ask like a certain question just about like the meeting changes and being late, just respectfully. Like, I just want to know, like, you mentioned how you got threats of violence from what you call the radical woke leftists, and I'm just curious because I want to know, like, what kind of, can you give at least one quote of one of those threats? Because I've known.
Well, the university contacted the host, so Uncensored America. So, Sean, you can go ahead and answer that question and talk about the type of threats of violence that were issued tonight that caused the campus security and campus administrators to call you and tell you that the venue was changed tonight, which is the reason why the event was delayed. So why don't you give a few examples?
Yeah, I was called by our venue, which was the Graduate Hotel, and they basically said, and well, we actually had two previous venues, I'd say. There was first a venue on campus that was deemed unsafe because of the expected pushback. And then when we contacted a new venue, which was the Graduate Hotel, they said that they received threats involving firearms and other things. They didn't really get explicit with me, but if you want to ask them, you can. They can tell you all the threats that they received, but they said that due to threats and everybody's safety that they couldn't allow this event to happen.
Did they say the threats came from trans activists?
You can call them and ask.
So they didn't say that. So
We'll have time for one last question from you, and then we're going to have to end, unfortunately, because this is when our reservation ends.
Yeah.
The threats.
Okay.
The threats did come from trans radicals because there is a group, and I'll pull up the tweet right now so that you can see, and perhaps some of you are even members of this organization.
You need to stop lying. It's insane.
I'm not a liar.
You're a liar. You're a liar.
The group OATSC tweeted, fascist former political candidate Laura Loomer will be speaking tonight at the Graduate, 1619 Pendleton Street, Columbia, South Carolina, 8 p.m. Come rally against her and show that hate won't go unanswered. And then underneath the tweet in the thread, there were a series of other tweets made by the same account that called for people to shut the event down. When you're threatening, the university officials received phone calls of direct threats of violence. They did.
You're a liar.
Not a liar.
All right. That's unfortunately all the time we have for today. So, Laura, if you want to make one last comment, more welcome.
Yeah, so I have a book that I wrote. It's called Loomered, How I Became the Most Banned Woman in the World. And I know that, unfortunately, the speech was disrupted tonight. And so I'm going to be taking a list of orders. And the book is $30. And if you want to purchase the book, I will take your information with me. And then when I get back to Florida tomorrow, I will be sure to ship out a signed copy of my book for anybody that wants a copy. And then you can learn more about my story and, you know, what I intended to speak to you about tonight without the disruption. So thank you so much for attending tonight. And thank you for standing your ground in the midst of anti-free speech radicalism.